Don't look now, but bowl season is officially here. We are here breaking down, reacting to all of the bowl games across the SEC football landscape. I am Chris Phillips. He is Cole Thompson. Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. First things first, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And, of course, as always, brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use promo code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup, guys, whether it's college football, college basketball, NFL, NHL, NBA, anything in between. They've got you over at prizepicks.com and or the PrizePicks app, and use that promo code SECU to get your $50 bonus today when you play your first $5 or more lineup. Sure, we know about the college football playoff. The bracket is officially out, but if you're a real sicko like we are, you love bowl season. And that's what we're here to talk about, guys. We've got 10 SEC bowl games. We now officially know opponents, matchups, dates, times, everything you need to know for SEC football bowl season. We've got it for you as we give our initial reactions to all things SEC football bowl games. Again, I'm Chris Phillips. I am joined, as always, once again by my good friend, Cole Thompson, to talk all things bowl season. Cole, what's going on, my friend? I will say this. For those of you tuned in, you probably know we were live just a few hours ago. We said we'd see you soon. Little did we know it'd be a few hours later. So, like we said, we can't get enough. We're sickos just like you. That's why you tune in. Cole, excited to talk some of these bowl games and get kind of our initial thoughts because, of course, we'll break these games down, preview them, predict them, all that good stuff. But listen, I know, Cole, you as a college football diehard, you're a big fan of bowl season, my friend. So
absolutely. Who is not a fan of bowl season? Because here's
believe
the thing.
It or not, Cole, did you know there's some people out there that think we have too many bowl games? Did you know that? Hard to believe. Hard to believe. I know.
Stay away. No.
I know.
Can't even. No.
It's not I, but there are some that think that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at it in such a negative light. Think of it this way. Players opt out. You get to figure out pretty quickly who are the next up-and-comers for your team. Who are people that you get to be excited about talking throughout the entire offseason? Look at the way that he performed in a bowl matchup. Remember how we were talking about Heisman, Miller, Moss, that middle mentality out against Louisville in the Holiday Bowl last year? And now there's a very good shot he may actually play at Louisville next year. So you get to figure out what direction your team is in. There are a lot of these players. It's the very last time you'll ever see them suit up in a uniform. Here's something that I'm very interested in, Chris Phillips, especially in this new day and age of college football. These players are no longer just quote-unquote student athletes. They're getting paid. And some of them are getting paid an inordinate amount of money to be a part of an organization. Are they going to opt out? Are they going to play in this game? Are we going to watch them actually suit on up and say, we want to get to that 10-win victory? We want to be able to catapult ourselves. What if in the contract it says for you to garner these last $200,000, you have to play in the bowl game? Those are all things that are going to be really interesting. I think it's going to change the dynamics of college football for the postseason and, more importantly, for the playoff model and for bowl games. I'm interested to see some of these matchups and what they can incur. More importantly, I'm interested to see some of these players that are going to be big-time names in 2025, regardless if it's out in Columbia, Missouri, Columbia, South Carolina, if it's in College Station, Texas. There's going to be an opportunity for them to mix a little bit of noise and a little bit of magic out in bowl games.
Yeah, to your point, Cole, I mean, opt-outs are going to happen. It's an inevitable part, whether it's guys who want to get a head start on the portal, whether they want to, get ready for the NFL draft and project their standing when it comes to that. But it also gives opportunity, like you mentioned, Cole, for other guys to emerge. I mean, look at last year, I think, with LSU, right?
Yep.
Jaden Daniels, he's obviously made the decision. I think we all agreed with that decision at the time to sit out. And it gives Garrett Nussmeier an opportunity to get in. And, I know it didn't translate maybe the way LSU fans were exactly hoping, but still, to get that experience, you go out, you beat Wisconsin in that thriller last year, and then obviously he takes over as QB1, and the rest is history. So, listen, I am someone that it is a tale as old as time, no matter how much different bowl season may look these days, because it does, let's face it, right? I mean, nobody could have fathomed even a decade ago what happened last year when Georgia and Florida State played each other, and Florida State's essentially entire team decided to opt out. And so, I mean, nobody could have fathomed that, but if you're a real college football fan, you know as well as I do, one of your favorite times of year, maybe you're home for the holidays or you're in the comforts of your own home. You got the fire going or the heater or whatever it is. It's the Christmas season. The decorations are out. And Cole, there's just nothing like kicking the feet up, maybe making yourself a cup of joe, a hot chocolate, your own adult beverage. I have no idea, but smell of gingerbread is abound.
Yeah, I do eggnog. That's my big go-to.
Eggnogs, the smell of the Fraser fir, the Christmas tree is lit, and there you have some bowl game on the television. It's comforting. You know, if we didn't have it, you would miss it. I would miss it, right? You take it for granted. You'd miss it if you didn't have it. I'm talking even the bowl games called like Western Kentucky and Old Dominion.
Are you kidding me? Those are the best ones.
Yeah, to your point, they are.
Those are the best ones at the end of the day.
There's nothing better than mindlessly having that game on in the background.
The Popeyes Bahamas Bowl, who doesn't love that matchup? Seriously.
Nothing better.
It's one of my favorite games of the year because it's always just down to the wire, 4 quarters, 2 big trickery plays that end up being very beneficial for both sides. And usually we talk about them as one of the great teams. There are people that I work with on radio all the time that refuse to let me have the television on when I'm in the studio because they're like, why are you watching this game? Because it's college football. I'm a sicko that sits up on Tuesday night at a bar watching Maction. You don't think I'm going to be caring about what happens in a bowl game with no nonsensical realities aside from it? Come on, be real. Marshall versus, I'm not even sure who they're playing right now. I think it's not Army. I think maybe it is Army. I'm not sure, but it's in the Independence Bowl. Guess what? I'm excited for that game. You want to know what game I'm most excited for? The Old Dominion game. You want to know what else game I'm excited for? Texas State when they play. And of course, I'm excited for the 10 SEC games on, which by the way, December 27th, if you are an SEC fan, you better be sitting plopped down on your couch, locked and loaded, have your favorite beverage nearby, because if you're going to be having a few of them while the SEC dominates the television screens.
Yeah, neither your TV or your laptop. You're going to need multiple screens because while the games are going, we'll be live all day too, reacting to all those games and, of course, all the games throughout bowl season. That being said, Cole, let's pull up the list. Again, give our initial reactions to bowl season and what we got. I'll run down the list really quickly. Florida Tulane and the Gasparilla, Oklahoma Navy and the Armed Forces, South Carolina, Illinois in the Citrus, Mizzou, Iowa in the Music City, Ole Miss, Duke in the Gator, Alabama, Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal, LSU, Baylor in the Texas Bowl, A&M, USC in the Las Vegas Bowl, Vandy, Georgia Tech in the Birmingham Bowl, and Arkansas and Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl. Cole, I think the first thing that jumps out, what's interesting, and credit to those, by the way, that cover this and do bowl projections and on the bowl selection day, our good friend Brad Crawford at 24/7 Sports, Brett McMurphy, even though he ruffled some feathers, including Cole a little bit.
He wasn't the problem. It was the commissioner.
Okay, fair enough. So to those guys, it's really McMurphy and Brad Crawford, and maybe there's a few others, but those are the ones I pay the closest attention to. They do a great job of releasing this, keeping us up to date with kind of the whole selection process, Cole, and how it works. Because what I didn't realize, I didn't know this, that after the playoff, the Citrus Bowl got the first dibs. And I thought, Cole, that was what was interesting, is that the Citrus Bowl, they got first dibs, and they decided South Carolina was deserving of that spot. So kind of just, it kind of goes into the mind of the thinking where, Bama was the first team out, but South Carolina was the first team selected. That's kind of interesting.
What's fun to me, Chris, is that when you look at the bowl committees and they're trying to decide on what is the best course of action for their cities, for their matchups, they're very much fans just like we are. They're looking at it from a single lens that says we want the best game on our screens. That way we get the most action. That way people want to come visit us. That way it does wonders for us. And you know who was playing the best down the stretch? South Carolina. You know who had the most ranked wins down the stretch? South Carolina. You want to know who was on a 6-game winning streak and looked like they were on a warpath to being the most dangerous threat in the college football playoff? South Carolina. So why wouldn't you want the feel-good war chickens playing up against the fighting Brett Bielema's out in Orlando for this being a must-see showdown, and more importantly, a game to where both these teams can finish 10-3 on the year. 10 wins for a program like South Carolina is historic. 10 wins for a program like Illinois is historic. It's not going to carry that same luster linger the way that it will for, an Alabama that we expect to be a 10-win program every year, or an Ole Miss that we figured was going to be a 10-win program. I love the fact that they kind of realized, much like us as college football fans, there was a reasoning that we were talking about South Carolina being in the college football playoff. There was a reason why we said South Carolina has earned the right to compete for a spot in the national championship. And so what they do, they said, you know what? Fine. We're going to make sure that they're the ones on the biggest screen at the marquee moment because they have earned the right to play in the most prominent non-college football playoff bowl game.
Think about, too, Cole, what it says for Shane Beamer's program. I mean, the
Absolutely.
fact that, again, following along with our buddy Brad Crawford, I think he fully expected Alabama to be selected for this game. And the fact that the Citrus Bowl, chose South Carolina over Alabama. That really, that's a little bit of a feather in your cap. And I think it says a lot about the program and the trajectory. And, you look for anything you can for momentum purposes and to build up the prestige of your program. That's a pretty big deal. I think that's a pretty big deal. So
I think the other thing that's really important is that because they were chosen as the team to be represented, they were the first team out of all the SEC programs that they could have gone with. They could have gone with Ole Miss, could have gone with Bama, could have gone with Mizzou at 9-3. They really could have. But they said, I want South Carolina. I think that South Carolina is going to return the favor. You're going to watch players not opt out of this game. They're going to stay fully invested. They're going to be multiply involved. They're not going to say, let's prepare for the next chapter of my life. We are in on beating Illinois because this year was special. And more importantly, we want to leave no doubt for the College Football Playoff Committee. They said, well, Alabama has a head-to-head win over us, so that has to mean something. We can understand that. But how dare you think that when we played against the ACC champions and we found a way to win in their backyard, that we're not going to finish the job? We've already lit the fuse. We're waiting for the explosion. We're waiting for the eruption. We're waiting to prove to everybody that we truly were one of the 12 finest in college football. And so now they were selected. You're going to see, I think, Kyle Kennard play in this game. You're going to see Nicky Manwari play in this game. You're going to see guys who are probably thinking about going pro come back for one more showdown because they realize how important this matchup is. It's the fact that there is a turning of the tides in the SEC to where everybody and anybody can be included as a favorite as long as they get the job done. South Carolina belongs in that conversation. They're going to deliver on Saturday or whenever that game. The 27th is that game.
That game is actually, Cole, on the 31st, New Year's Eve. That is a 3 o'clock Eastern time kickoff on New Year's Eve. One of just 2 games, and it will be Alabama and South Carolina back-to-back on New Year's Eve. So, again, pretty good company. Again, Cole, on a quick side note, too, and there's going to be opt-outs for everybody. It's just going to happen. Some guys are going to determine it's better off for them to take whatever path they do. But to your point about the motivation factor for the Gamecocks, listen, some of these games, maybe you can say, who knows how excited is the team for the game? That will not be the case in the Citrus Bowl. Illinois is a quality opponent, but from the South Carolina perspective, Cole, we talk about history and South Carolina has won 10 or more games, Cole, in a season. Bowl game or not, has won 10 or more games in a season 4 times in the history of the football program. So that's what's at stake. You think about it. They can become only the 5th team in school history to win 10 or more games. That is a motivating factor for Shane Beamer if you're talking to your team.
There's a bigger motivation factor. Chris, this is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Do you understand that means that if you win, instead of a Gatorade bath, you're going to bath it in Cheez-Its?
Well, Shane Beamer, and I was going to say, Shane Beamer's been doused in mayo. I think he'd much rather be showered in Cheez-Its.
You get a year supply of Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are my favorite.
Cheez-Its are also my favorite snack. Yeah, that's an elite snack. Yeah,
it's an elite snack. It is A+ go-to. We have got to have it inside the house, in the cupboard at all times. And you're telling me that you get a year's supply of it? South Carolina. Who doesn't want Cheez-Its? You want the spicy, you want the cheddar jack, you want the hot and spicy, you want the Colby jack, whatever flavor you want, you get.
Cole, on a side note, I'm a big Duos guy. I like the Duos.
Which one?
Parmesan and
sharp cheddar.
Yeah, sharp cheddar.
Sharp cheddar. That is the elite content.
The Duos that's chef's kiss. Cole, like we mentioned, let's go ahead and highlight them on that same day earlier in the day. Again, the team that we thought may go to the Citrus Bowl, they're going to the ReliaQuest Bowl. That being the Alabama Crimson Tide. They take on Michigan in a rematch of the college football playoff semis from a year ago, or the college football playoff game from a year ago. Didn't have the semis in. Cole, I kind of felt like this is a little bit boring. I know it's different teams, but I don't know. I would have liked to have seen some variety. At the same time, it's a great helmet game, just like we said last year. It's a great helmet game, but obviously the stakes are nowhere near what they were a season ago. Thoughts on Alabama taking on Michigan? By the way, Cole, I will tell you this too. We're talking about the portal and bowl season. This coming out while we're on air, Alabama wide receiver Kendrick Law plans to enter the transfer portal. So I will assume he is not going to play in the football game. That's going to be the big question, Cole, I think, for Kalen DeBoer and company is just what does your football team look like going in this game?
Before we actually go ahead and move on, I would just like to point out, if you have any comments, please let us know. We have over 500 people watching. We'd appreciate it if you go ahead and like this video as well. I want to pull out this comment because I didn't even think about this. Lenore Sellers about ready to walk onto the football field at the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl screams as JPS says, "I woke up feeling the cheesiest, coach." Just an elite line.
Somebody's got to do it.
He's got to do it. He's got to do it, especially if they win. For Alabama, you've already seen Kobe Prance enter the transfer portal. Caleb Odom, the wide receiver 5-star, enter the transfer portal. You also have now seen Kendrick Law enter the transfer portal. There are going to be more names that are entering. And I think on the flip side, there are going to be more names entering the NFL draft for Michigan. You have Kenneth Grant. You have Mason Graham. Will Johnson hasn't played in over a month. You didn't have Colston Loveland out there for the biggest game of the year where they still found a way to beat Ohio State at Ohio State. So I'm not sure they're going to carry that momentum. And the biggest question of all, I think, is Jalen Milroe. Milroe's status is really going to be up in the air because there are many of us that believe he has played his last down at Alabama. Now, the question is, has he played his last down at Alabama and he's going into the portal, or he's played his last down at Alabama and he's entering the draft? Regardless, this is a pretty good time to figure out what you have at quarterback, because you got your guy in Russell for the future. That is somebody that if you are Kalen DeBoer, very similar to what we saw with guys like Bryce Underwood now going for Sharon Moore, or you look at a guy such as a Deuce Knight for Hugh Freeze. That's somebody that you think can be the difference maker for your team. Josh Heupel with Nico Iamaleava. Exactly. Lenore Sellers with Shane Beamer, DJ Lagway with Billy Napier. That's somebody that you think can be absolutely one of the best versions for your offense. He fits everything that you want. But with that being said, you also got to see, is he going to have to come in right away? Do we have to go in the portal and bring somebody else in? What do we have in a guy like Austin Mack? What do we have in a guy like what do we have like a guy in what am I saying? Ty Simpson? What do we have in a guy like Lonergan? What do we have on our roster that we feel maybe can give us an advantage to figure out what the plan is going into the spring football months, going into the portal season? How much do we have to spend? And also, who are some wide receivers that you think that you're going to be targeting? Jeremy Bernard, if he wants to come back next year, absolutely would love it. Think he'd be a great fit. You already know that Ryan Williams, I don't think is going anywhere. They would pay millions to make sure that he stays on campus in Tuscaloosa. But you got to figure out who are the next big time names. There were a lot of receivers this past year that didn't have a bigger role, and it felt like that was kind of on purpose to save their eligibility. You got to remember that in conference championship weekends and in bowl games, your eligibility is not factored. It does not go against you. So if you've played 3 games, you can still redshirt that year. It doesn't affect anything else that comes with it. So maybe this is the breakout game. Last year, we talked about this with Miller Moss. That was a moment where we watched him play against Louisville. You felt like, great, the direction of the team is heading upward. Ultimately, it didn't, but you got to see something that gave you optimism if you were a USC fan. That's got to be the case, I think, for Alabama in this game.
Yeah, I think to your point, Cole, too, is like, again, people love to say that bowl games don't matter and you know, the bowl games aren't what they used to be. And I'm not sitting here saying they're not, but at the same time, I go back, Cole, to what Steve Spurrier used to say, that everything is better when you win your bowl game.
Yep.
Everything. I mean, it makes off-season workouts better. It makes spring ball better. It makes the preseason better. Summer workouts. I mean, the hype around your team, the buzz, it is always good to win it. So you can say it doesn't matter, but if you're going to play it, you might as well win it. So build some momentum. It's just crazy how that carries over and affects your next season when you win that bowl game.
The other thing that's really important is that it carries into the terms of you want to still show the committee that you belonged in. Alabama was the first team out. Alabama was the team that figured, hey, we messed up against Vanderbilt. We messed up on the road against Oklahoma. We did not do our job to control our own destiny. That's on us. But you're really going to put in SMU? Because here's the thing. We're going to go back to it. SMU, regardless of if you want to talk about quality wins, quality losses, they played in a bowl game. I mean, they played in a conference championship. They told us that conference championships have to matter. But then we also look, Clemson won the bowl game. I mean, the ACC championship. They're ranked behind them. There's a 6-point gap between the ACC champion and the leaders of the ACC during the regular season. So don't you want to be able to say, you just messed up with both and we belonged in? We got 10 wins. We're a dangerous 10-win team. We messed up. That was on us. But if you gave us an opportunity to go in the playoff, this is what you can expect. And again, it's going to be, I think, a really big deal moving forward for a lot of these teams that are being snubbed, especially in a 12-team playoff model to where they want to leave no doubt that they should be on it. Absolutely. Sorry, hate to be the bearer of bad news. Alabama has a better resume than Indiana. Alabama has a better resume than SMU, better resume than Boise State. They've looked better consistently than Arizona State. Arizona State was one of the hottest teams down the stretch. They have more significant wins, tougher strength of schedule, but they got left out because of the system. Make sure that you make sure that you look forward, that the system doesn't come back to bite you in the ass.
Cole, moving on to the rest of these games, another one jumps out: Texas A&M and USC in Las Vegas. I think that's actually a really intriguing matchup with A&M and Marcel Reed, and continuing to build around him. We're assuming obviously he's going to be the guy, and you look at the Trojans. I think in regards to matchups, that's probably one of the best on this board here.
I think it's probably one of those games that we won't really care that much about on paper. And then you're going to go ahead and look back, and it'll be like in the fourth quarter, and it's a 41-41 game, back and forth blows. You're watching as Marcel Reed looks like the version of himself that he was against Oklahoma State last year in the Texas Bowl. You watch as, who is it? Jaden Maeva, the quarterback that transferred on in from UNLV, slicing and dicing up this A&M secondary. And it comes down to a game-winning field goal from Randy Bond. Like, that's what it is. And it's going to be one of those games to where we look back and we're like, this is why bowls matter. Like, this is why the games are so important, because of, even though you're not playing for prominence in a national championship, you want to have bragging rights. You want to be able to say that you did your job. And more importantly, if you're USC, you want to be able to say, hey, we also joined a brand new conference and we beat an SEC team in year one, twice in Las Vegas. Take that. Our season started with the win against an SEC team. It ended with the win against an SEC team. So again, that's actually a really good matchup. I think the other thing that's going to be really important is, let's figure out what's going to be the plan moving forward with Marcel Reed. Because if he is going to play in this game, he's not going to transfer. There's a belief that maybe Texas A&M could add in a quarterback this offseason. Maybe they could bring in somebody that would at least elevate the level of competition. But they like Marcel Reed. They think that he is a very, very, very talented player. And they feel like that he can fit the system a lot better than Connor Wigman can, as evident by Wigman not playing down the stretch. And it was very clear it was a, no, it's not me, it's a you feeling. No, it's not you, it's a me feeling. All right, let's just go ahead and break up, not have to worry about this. Now you have to figure out your identity moving forward with this team. And we get to see Ruben Owens play for the first time really this year, which is going to be, I think, beneficial, because a lot of Aggies out there are saying, if we just had a stable run game against Auburn, well, you got a run game next year, and you're going to be able to build off of it.
Cole, where does your attention go otherwise when it comes to this list of games? Were there any that stood out to you, caught your eye?
Yeah, I really am interested in the Florida Tulane Gasparilla Bowl.
That's the first, by the way, that's the first SEC Bowl game, December the 20th at 3:30 Eastern.
That just feels like such an underrated game, to where we're going to watch as DJ Lagway puts on a performance that absolutely captivates why we fell in love with him and why we think that Florida is a team on the rise. And again, the portal is going to be open. There are going to be players that are looking at destinations throughout the SEC, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. And then you get to see him slice and dice apart a Green Wave defense that we don't know if they're even going to have a lot of players there, because we're still waiting on the status of what happens with John Summerall, who still is in the running for the UNC job. So if they have a bunch of opt-outs, now you're just seeing more consistency. You're watching as a younger player like Aiden Mizell continues to step on up, and Jaden Baugh continues to step on up. I actually think that's a really, really good game. I also think that Vanderbilt Georgia Tech is something that needs to be talked about more, because if you look at the way that Vanderbilt this past year played a physical brand of no-nonsense football when they wanted to show up. They never were in third and long when they were able to go ahead and have great consistency on the ground. That was phenomenal. Diego Pavia one more time potentially is awesome. But then you got to talk about a team in Georgia Tech that took Georgia to 8 overtimes, was a play away from getting the upset of all upsets on on rivalry weekend. They have a quarterback that they love in Haynes King. They have an offensive personnel that knows how to be able to play a certain brand against physical front sevens. And it's in Birmingham. Like, everyone sleeps on the Birmingham Bowl. It is such an awesome trophy to bring back. More importantly, it's, I think, a must-see showcase game, because if you always watch this go down to the wire for some reason, whether it be Auburn, whether it be Kentucky, whether it be Vanderbilt, it's going to be a 4-quarter battle. I'm excited for that game.
And to your point, Cole, 2 things. Number one, Florida Tulane, that's going to serve as the appetizer to the college football playoff game that night. I believe is that the Notre Dame game?
Is it the 20th?
They play that night. Yep, Notre Dame and Indiana will play that night. So that'll be fun on Friday afternoon. And then you mentioned it, man. Diego Pavia against Haynes King, assuming I'm assuming they're both playing. Dude, what a match.
Yeah.
That's going to be so much fun to watch.
It's going to be a madhouse.
Watching those two dudes run around is going to be a lot of fun. Ole Miss Duke is kind of interesting to me, Cole, from the standpoint. I'm just, how excited is Ole Miss to be there? And what does their team look like? Because they got a lot of guys with NFL futures and a lot of guys that, let's face it, Cole, they didn't go to Oxford to go to the Gator Bowl. So, and Duke's a good team. I mean, Duke's going to come in ready to raise some hell and give Ole Miss all they want and then some. So, I don't know, man. It's to your point, Cole. I think it's you'd like to say that Ole Miss is going to take a lot of pride and want to go out there and beat Duke by 50 and prove that they were done wrong. But then again, I'm like, I don't really know that that's going to be the case. So it's like, are we going to get a shell of? I mean, dude, do you think Jackson Dart's going to play? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say on Ole Miss's team who's going to play and who isn't.
What's really sad is that when you look at Duke kind of never had that.
Side note, Cole, that game is January the 2nd. That is the last SEC bowl game. Obviously, we have the playoff. So that's the last non-playoff affiliated bowl game. January the 2nd at 7:30 Eastern.
I don't know. Like, Duke's a really fun defense. And I'm not going to lie. When they hired Manny Diaz, that was one of my favorite hires of the offseason, simply because I thought he got a bad rep at Miami. Like, they knew that they were going to get Mario. If they didn't get Mario, he was going to be back. They dangled him for like 3 days saying, we don't know, maybe it's us. Like, it was a really bad relationship, like a girlfriend that was already planning on dumping you for another dude like in 4 hours. And they just were making sure the guy broke up with his girlfriend first. And so, like, the situation was really bad. He revitalized himself and hit the reset button when he was at Penn State. Last year, he was phenomenal. I mean, this past year, 9-3 for a Duke team that lost its head coach, Mike Elko. They carry the consistency. Were there some close games? Yeah, I mean, they were the only team that took SMU into overtime, but also they have a great defense, and they have a quarterback in Malik Murphy that, honestly, I was shocked when he committed there. I thought he was good enough to go to multiple SEC schools. I thought he was probably going to find himself in an offense that was more so like what Hugh Freeze likes to run. And now he might be a reason why, if they get a win over Ole Miss and they finish the year 10-3, again, a lot of these teams want to finish the year 10-3. They could say, well, now we're a fun program. And we're also watching as the College Football Playoff Committee is going to allow 2 potential ACC teams into the playoff if we play up to a certain brand. We got our quarterback. We're not losing our head coach. We got momentum. We have some NIL funds. We're in a really good spot. Come to Durham. Listen, I mean, you're talking about all of these moments of like what a big bowl game could do. This is one of them. Absolutely. But for Ole Miss, let's just say they do not have Jackson Dart. Let's say that he's out for this game and he doesn't want to play. We get to see Austin Simmons. We get to see the guy that absolutely was the X factor on keeping momentum at an all-time high against Georgia when Dart went out. And if Georgia can win with Gunnar Stockton, who's to say that we weren't going to see Austin Simmons beat Georgia in that game? Of course, naturally, we got to go ahead and put it all in parentheses. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You need a Jackson Dart. You got a double-digit win at home in Oxford. But still, the Austin Simmons era gets to start. I'd be pretty excited about that. And then Caden Lee, again, that's going to be your new number 1. I think that's really, really important to see his growth. That way you know what else you need to target in the transfer portal.
Yeah, Cole, to your point, I mentioned Jackson Dart, but the thing that immediately came to mind when I kicked it to you was the fact that, I mean, we'd love to see Jackson Dart play. Obviously, we love Dart Vader, Dart NATO, whatever the nickname you choose is. But this is another kind of situation. It kind of reminds me of LSU last year. It's like you wouldn't mind getting the Austin Simmons era up and rolling. And, if he had a good game and you beat Duke, what a momentum-building performance that could be for the Rebels and Hottie Toddy going into 2025. So, and Austin Simmons, again, a hell of a player. I feel confident saying he's going to be a really fun one to watch in Lane Kiffin's offense. Cole, the 3 games, I'm excited for them. We're going to watch them, obviously. We're going to break them down. Oklahoma, Navy, Mizzou, Iowa, Arkansas, Texas Tech are all very meh to me.
What do you think the
Oklahoma Navy is very meh.
What do you think the over-under is set at that line?
Oklahoma Navy?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 37.5.
I'm going to put 40 just to be nice. Like 40, and like the line is in favor of Oklahoma -3.5. Like, can you imagine telling yourself that Oklahoma in year one of the SEC is playing Navy and you're a 3.5 point favorite? Like, can you just imagine?
Is that what the spread is?
No, I'm saying that's what I think it's going to be.
Okay. Yeah, we're still waiting on it, obviously. Yeah, that one's going to be that one. It's funny, Cole. That one's actually mixed in the day with Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, A&M, USC, and Arkansas and Texas Tech is that day as well. So it's going to be some fun ones that day. Mizzou, Iowa. Listen, Mizzou probably had the quietest 9-3 season of anybody.
I think Duke actually did, but for the SEC, it was definitely
for the SEC. I just kind of Mizzou, just sort of. It's like, oh, they won 9 games. I mean, listen, goal for Mizzou, you can get to 10 wins. That's a big deal there in Como. I know it wasn't the season you wanted, but you can get to 10 wins, and you're in Nashville, so fun road trip. So I mean, I again, another situation of Luther Burden is going to the NFL draft. What's the OE's doing? I would assume Brady Cook's going to play, don't you? I feel like Brady Cook's a guy that's he will play in this game.
I mean, he's a 7th round pick to an undrafted.
Well, and I just think too, he's a warrior, man. He loves Mizzou. I don't see him. He ain't the kind of guy. I think even if he was a first rounder, he'd be like, dude, I'm playing with my guys one more time.
He wants to represent the gold and black one more time. He wants to go out there. I will say I'm going to be really interested to see who opts out at running back, because if they don't have Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel, I honestly might think this is going to be a line that is first touchdown wins. Like, it will be a 7-0 win for Mizzou or for Iowa in this game. And that's they have to decide on who walks away with the dub.
Again, probably take the under in that football game. We'll see what
I would immediately take the under in that game. There's no way I'm touching it. If I'm a safe bettor, I am not touching that game.
Yeah, no, probably not. And then Arkansas, Texas Tech. I mean, I don't know what to do with my hands with that game. I don't know, Cole. I don't know what to think with that one.
I'll be real. I'm probably going to pick a lot of teams in the SEC to win just because of SEC dominance. But apparently I'm not well liked in Fayetteville, and apparently I hate Arkansas. And I love Joey McGuire. He follows me on Twitter. We've actually had a couple of back and forth conversations over the last few years. He's a very good coach. That might be one of the very few games I'm like, oh, I'm riding against the SEC. Big 12 or bust on that one.
Yeah, how excited let's be honest, man, how excited are our Hog fans to travel to the Liberty Bowl to watch them play Texas Tech?
What day is that on?
That game is, again, that's on the 27th. That is a 7 Eastern time kickoff. It is mixed in, and it's in Memphis, Tennessee. Beautiful Memphis, the Liberty Bowl.
Do you know how cold it is going to be at kickoff? December 27th with a 6-6 Arkansas team that just lost Luke Haas to the transfer portal, and they lost Landon Jackson in the NFL draft. Like, nobody is going to show up. And if they do, they're showing up because they just want to get away. They just want to get out of bed.
And it's at night. So it's going to be frigid.
Have you ever been inside the Liberty Bowl? So the way that the wind carries in there, it stings. Like, it is like a whip. Like, if it comes in hard, it hits you in the face like no one's been, and you're just like, who hit me? Oh, it's the wind. Like, it is going. This is going to be one of those games where when you look at Baron Morton and the way that they run the offense for Texas Tech and the way that they run the offense for Arkansas, you're going to see like 7 or 9 interceptions in this game, especially if the wind lets the ball hang up there. Before we get out of here, I do want to ask you, if there was one game that you could switch, what would it be?
Switch opponents?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would go with, I don't know. You must have one on the top of your mind. I'd maybe go like Ole Miss USC. I think that'd be fun.
I have waited all year to hear people say, well, if you just watched LSU play against USC in the first half, if they were able to respond, that'd be a game that they wouldn't mess up. I believe that. I truly believe that. I would love to go back to Las Vegas, LSU, USC.
Just do it all over again.
Do it all over again. Because Brian Kelly says they may beat us once, but it ain't going to happen every time. Okay, now's your chance. Now's your chance. You said that you're improved. You said that you would make some switches. God. This is your moment. And if I couldn't have that, please come back to Dallas. Come back to Dallas, Lincoln, and face off against your former team. Face off against Oklahoma.
That would have been fun.
The boos just inside of that. Nobody would care about the game. They would just be screaming Tebow's name nonstop. They would be the most villainous, heinous shit would be portraying from the mouth of the Sooner Nation in that game.
Funny enough, Cole, we kind of glossed over that LSU Baylor game, the Dave Aranda Bowl.
It's the Dave Aranda Bowl.
It is the Dave Aranda Bowl. Used to be the DC there at LSU, now the head coach at Baylor, and that one's right down the road from our good friend Bear. So
that might be a game where
you might have to go.
You
might have to go. That's a New Year's Eve, 2:30 Central.
The good news is I know the people who work in the department, so there's a very good shot that I could at least get credentialed for that game. They're very nice, and they very much like the work that we put in. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Dave Aranda, I love him to death. I do. I've always said that Dave Aranda was not the problem out in Waco, Texas. He's a dude that I think he deserves the respect that he has earned over his tenure as a coach. He fixed the problems. Sawyer Robertson balled on out. Love it. And guess what? LSU. Cincinnati, Garrett Nussmeier. Let's figure out what we got because you got Ricky Collins next year. What we doing? LSU?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The one thing we know is this, Cole, and already in the 2024 season, it's been pure madness, unpredictability with opt-outs and transfers and NFL draft. I mean, my goodness, bowl season is only going to give us that and much, much more. So, again, Cole, it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, we're going to be previewing every game, breaking down every game, predicting every game, and we're excited to have you guys along for the ride. Any last thoughts, any parting thoughts, anything, closing statements when it comes to the slate of bowl games and bowl season in general? I'll just say, Cole, I'm excited for it. I don't take bowl season for granted. Like I said at the top of the show, it's a tale as old as time. It's a tradition that I love. And again, if you're someone that says, why do they even play the games? Why would you want less college football? Because I shed a single tear knowing that, the end is near and we need to enjoy the college football while we have it.
It's one more game. Bragging rights are on the line. The fact that you get to go into the offseason and know that you won your final showdown against maybe a top 25 opponent, you got to 10 wins, 11 wins. You did some good stuff. I mean, I'm sorry. But when you look at a team like Ole Miss, you look at a team like South Carolina, you look at a team like Alabama, there's still a lot to play for. And more importantly, you as a fan, you get one more game on your television screens. I absolutely love everything about bowl games. I love bowl games. They still have meaning to me. I'm always going to appreciate whenever I have college football. Because here's the biggest thing, ladies and gentlemen. You know this as well as I do. You complain throughout the entire spring and summer months. I wish I had college football on my screen. So appreciate when it is actually on your screen for the next 3 weeks. And it's not just for a postseason picture berth.
Guys, that'll do it. Cole, well said. Appreciate you all tuning in. Again, almost 600 of you tuned in live. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Check us out via social media. Check us out via our podcast as well. Wherever you get your podcast, and, of course, our website, secunfiltered.com. Cole Thompson, thank you so much, Cole, for taking the time and doing this. He's at Mr. Cole Thompson. I'm at CPhilly19. And, again, thank you all for continuing to show love, show support, and you'll continue to find us all throughout the bowl season, transfer portal season, every season you can think of. SEC Unfiltered will be here. So, again, for Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Have a great rest of your Sunday night, and we will catch you all on the other side.